All right. And don't forget about positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement actually makes people want to do more, to get more positive reinforcement. I mentioned before about something called token economies of rewards when we were talking about rewards. Very often in this particular system, somebody will get like a piece of paper that says reward, and it'll have like a value to it. If you get 10 of these, then you can have 1 night of no homework. Though that system is called a token because of the token, whether it's this or it's a chip or a stone or whatever it is you use, is like something you can barter. Because in a token economy system, for consequences, you can take these away. So that the student then is that much further either along or back towards the reward that they value. Let's not forget, the rewards you give have to have a value to them also. If everybody gets a reward, it doesn't mean much, does it? Oh, you were all so good in class today, you're all going to get a bookmark. Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you want to use a bookmark as a reward, it's, I saw that you were working on task the entire time, here's a bookmark. That's the reward. So maybe 3 or 4 kids will end up getting a reward in the class. But of course you set that up ahead of time. Today I am specifically looking at this particular behavior. I am looking at how you stay on task. Anybody who is on task from the minute we work until the minute I tell you to stop working will get a reward. So you've got to make that very, very clear what that reward is going to be for. Not just general, oh, you're all so wonderful. Feedback in this type of a situation, clear, specific feedback is very, very important. A child needs to know why they have misbehaved, what effect it has on the students who are working, what effect it has on you as the teacher, so that they know why what they're doing is wrong. All right, are there any more questions or comments about the behavior modification approach? It's much more complicated than just what we did here. Yeah.
I just have a question because I was reading through that chapter in Cooper's book.
Yeah.
And he tried to make it clear that maybe this is just more elementary, but to give consequences according to what they did. So, if they're sticking gum under the table, have them, clean the gum or whatever it is.
The specificity of it.
So,
yes.
But you can only do that to a certain point, because then at what point do you give detention? Because detention really isn't, that is not relevant to any of the things that they did. So, when do you decide that, okay, this kid needs detention?
When the child has stuck gum under the table 10 weeks in a row, after you've gone through all of the other, the hierarchy of strategies, you've even done a contract with the child that you feel as if that child understands that he's doing something wrong and is still doing it. No matter how many times you've spoken to him about it, then detention, I think, would be appropriate. Personally, detention, I agree with you. Detention is, what's the point? Unless you are sitting with that student. What I used to do is work out with, I had very unique detention. I used to work out with the Dean of Discipline, or the Dean of Students he was called, when a student did something really, really bad, or I had really worked with the student a long, long time, and the student still kept doing the behavior, I would say I would like that student to come up and clean my library. And that did 2 things. Well, first of all, I was the only one cleaning my library. I was lucky if it got swept 3 days a week, because that's not what they weren't called custodians, whatever they were called at that point. That's all they would do. My aides basically told me they came to work so they didn't have to do windows. You know, they weren't going to clean because they could clean their own houses. They'd be home cleaning their own houses. They'd rather go to work type thing. So I ended up doing my own cleaning. No, guys, nobody's going to clean for you. I used to have old clothes, rubber gloves, where I would go in and one afternoon I just spent cleaning up all the dust. Trust me, your libraries get dusty when there's nobody cleaning. So what I would do for detention is I would say to the dean of students, I really need help. My bottom shelves are just a mess. I need somebody to help me. And he would say, okay, we'll use this student. So the student would come up. Always take an opportunity. I got to know the student, why he or she was in detention, and then I asked them, I gave them choices of these things need to be done in the library. Which would you prefer doing? And they would choose scrubbing the tables or dusting the shelves or whatever. And I would make sure I went over and praised them. I have never had anybody dust the shelves as well as you're doing. Thank you so much. Could you come back one day and do it? I'm reinforcing the students' effort. They feel good about themselves. Remember, your students in detention probably feel pretty crummy about themselves, or they wouldn't be in detention, quite frankly, because they'd have enough pride in themselves to make sure that they didn't end up there. So any way you can make a child feel good, make them feel successful at something. And even if it was you're a great duster, I've never had anybody dusting the shelves like you have, will start to raise that student's self-esteem. And good self-esteem, guys, is necessary for learning. So take opportunities. I mean, how simple was that? So, okay, anything else about behavior modification? Let's move on. We're going to move on to another approach, which is the socio-emotional climate approach. And this approach places a great deal of importance on interpersonal relationships. It says that effective classroom management is a function of positive student-teacher relationships, like this mutual trust and respect for each other. And there was a man by the name of Carl Rogers who did a lot of work with this socio-emotional climate approach. And he believes that there are attitudes that teachers should have. Remember attitudes? What's another word that we've been using for attitudes?
Habits of mind.
Habits of mind. What else? Dispositions. Good. Okay. That a teacher should have that fosters relationships with students. Okay. One of them is called realness. I have over here, communicating realness. And Rogers believes that realness is the most important attitude that a teacher can display for learning. It's an expression of the teacher being him or herself. Meaning that the teacher is aware of his or her feelings, that acts on those feelings, and communicates the feelings when appropriate. So that if a student is doing something that's annoying to you, you should be, if you're communicating realness, you should be able to say to that student, tapping the pencil is driving me crazy and is disrupting the people sitting next to you. Please stop it. So that's showing you're a genuine human being. You've got emotions, you've got feelings, and there are things that really bother you. Your kids have to know what bothers you. Another disposition, habit of mind that Rogers thinks is important is acceptance. And that is that you view your student, every single one of them, as a person of worth, and that you respect that student. One of the comments that I frequently make, because this is something I see a lot when I do my student teaching observations, I frequently make the comment that there was a mutual respect between student and teacher. That it's so obvious when the teacher shows respect to the students and the student shows a mutual respect back. I don't want to say it's intangible because it really isn't. It's really something you can see. But it's wonderful when it happens. And I think once you start to be involved with students in your student teaching, you're going to start to see that. When you value and get to know the students individually in your class, who they are, what their likes are, what they do after school, what their challenges are in their lives, that's where respect really starts to grow. When you greet your students at the door when they come in and you make comments as, great game yesterday, you really played well, or I saw you in the play last night, you were fabulous, or you have a beautiful voice, in that whatever you can find good but real to say to your students really starts to create a relationship. And honestly, guys, the more they like you, the less misbehavior you're going to have, and the more likely when one student misbehaves, that another student will say, hey, that's not right, don't do that. Yeah. So this whole idea of acceptance and trust and mutual respect is very, very important, as well as something called, this is what Rogers calls it, empathic understanding, empathy. Empathic understanding, which is the teacher's ability to understand the student from the student's point of view. But it's up to the teacher to be non-evaluative and non-judgmental.